Hey scoundrels, how is it going? Excoundrel here. I want to follow on from my video yesterday. A lot of people said this is good, I really like this composition, but I don't really know how to play it, and your gameplay video isn't really telling me much. And I thought, okay, that's actually fair criticism. I think if I'm going to introduce a new composition to the channel, I should stick to doing it the way I've done it previously, and do it with a video where I kind of explain what's going on. So I'm going to talk about the bangbros composition. That is exactly what this comp is. It's going to be a very strong composition on update 10.8, and it's going to, I think it's basically untouched for the next update. So let's talk about the overall feel of this composition. So early game, you're going to have a couple of options. I generally tend to go for whatever comes my way. I will stick random 2 stars on the field, but there are 2 major ways that you can play the early game. You can play Rebels, and then give Ziggs any kind of AP items or any tier-based items. You can give Malphite any of your defensive items, and obviously give Yasuo any of his normal items. Or you can play Blade Masters, where you give Xayah some bits, and you just pick up the Shen and the Yasuo, and then actually I end up giving Xayah my carry items, and then selling her and giving them over to Yasuo when I complete that Rebel bonus. Level 6, you want to slow roll, so you're looking to get to 50 gold as soon as possible in this particular composition, and then roll, and you're rolling for your 3-star Yasuo and your 3-star Yi. Those are your priorities. Sona is next in priority, and then Shen is a nice bonus. Sometimes you can even find Blitzcrank if you're really lucky as well, but realistically, Yi and Yasuo need to be 3-star. At level 7+, you can go for Mystics, which requires you to get to level 8, or you can go for Chrono, which you can ditch the Karma for and add in a Wukong and a Thresh, or if you can't find Thresh, add in a Wukong and an Ezreal. But that requires level 7, Mystics requires level 8. I would go Chrono in most circumstances, but if I'm facing a lot of magic damage, I would go Mystic and try and get to level 8, especially if I've got a final boss of the E-Girls composition, for instance, which is Star Guardian Sorcerer, for anyone that isn't up to date with terminology. In terms of itemization, Yi generally gets your defensive items. The reason that Yi gets your defensive items is because he actually has a heal, so that heal is going to become more effective if he's got defenses, because he's regenerating HP that's harder to kill. And giving him a Rabadon is really good as well, because that not only increases his self-healing, but it increases the on-hit magic damage that he does with his ability. So those are like the perfect items for Yi, if you ask me, but he can also function very well with Titan's Resolve and with Guinsoo's. In terms of Yasuo items, he wants your standard Irelia type items, you know, things like Infinity Edge and GA as a core. Hand of Justice is really strong on him, because not only would the healing help him, but obviously also the ability damage would help him as well. You also have to note that Bloodthirster would be pretty good too. I didn't list it on the description. And he also could function well with a Guinsoo's Rageblade, and he also functions fine with the Giant Slayer. Oh, Yi could also do well with the Warmogs, by the way. Sona, any kind of tier items. I like Seraphs, but also Chalice is fine. Blitzcrank getting a Zephyr is good because you can reposition him at will. And then giving a Shen a Redemption is really nice, because he's usually your first Blade Master to take the aggro and die because of the positioning. So then when he dies, giving that health back over to your other carries is really nice. So let's have a look at the positioning and talk through that now. Hey guys, so the graphic that I showed you previously, I think summed up itemization pretty well. I think it summed up early game and mid game pretty well as well. That's why I changed the graphic to the one that I have, because I feel like I can do more with that. So I'm going to basically show you end game positioning with the build right now. And I'm going to show you it in general. So at the front, you're going to want your Blitzcrank and you're going to want your Shen. Again, these guys should be 2-star at the very least. Shen at 3-star if you can help it, but it's not a priority. Then you're going to want your Yasuo, and you are going to want your Master Yi right behind the Shen. Now, these guys have to be 3-star realistically. They basically just have to be. And then you're going to want your Sona right behind, at least 2-star, but preferably 3-star. Okay? So the way that this sets up is that you have the 3 Rebel bonus here, and it's going to benefit all of these guys pretty well. You have Shen in the front to provide a zone where these guys can't get basic attacked, and then you have Blitzcrank who's just going to pull someone in. Okay, then it comes to placing your Karma. Now, I usually place my Karma somewhere like here, 2-star if I can help it, because this allows me to latch onto my Yasuo, but you can also latch her onto the Master Yi as well, both of whom are perfectly fine. Depends on who is strongest at the point in time, who is 3-star. Basically, your Karma is flexible between one of your 2 strongest carries, realistically. And then you make the decision when you go to level 7, either you drop the Karma and go for 4 Chrono. So if you drop the Karma and go for 4 Chrono, then you need to do this. You get your Wukong You can add him somewhere like here, get him to 2-star preferably, and then ideally you would like Thresh. Now obviously at level 7 it's unlikely that you're going to get Thresh because it's a 1% chance. So if you can't get Thresh, I usually add in, if I can find him, I usually add in someone like Ezreal. So I usually just add in Ezreal down here. He doesn't have to be 2-star, but obviously it helps. But I usually add in Thresh at this point in time. If you don't want to go for the this version, and you want to instead go for the 4 Mystics version, the 4 Mystics version would be something along the lines of if you're going up against E-Girls, for instance, you know, or rather Star Guardian Sorcerer, I guess I shouldn't call it E-Girls. You need to find a Lulu, and then you need to find a Soraka. And you need to add both of these to your composition. So yeah, you need to have all of these in this. This would require you to go to level 8. You can drop the Karma and go for 4 Chrono if you're not going up against much magic damage. But other than that, this is the way that you play the build. This is what the positioning should look like. Blitzcrank can be flexible depending on who you want him to pull. But this little core here, this is generally the way that you want to play it. Alright guys, let's go through a game. This was kind of like a high diamond / master tier game. A couple of us were diamond 4, the rest of them were between diamond 2 and master. So we're going to go through this game. We're going to talk about the early game. We're going to talk about what I did on the carousels. We're going to talk about what I did with itemization. So right here, I tried to contest for the Poppy, which is bad because, to be honest with you, it's always very, very hard to find a BF sword in the first carousel because everybody wants them. It's probably one of the most hotly contested items on the carousel. Ended up getting a Leona with a Needlessly. Now, a Needlessly is fine because it can build into Guinsoo's, which is an okay item for bangbros. Also, it can build into Rabadons for Yi if you wanted that. So I think a Needlessly Large Rod is perfectly fine in this scenario. Now, I find a Shaco from the first round. Now, realistically, old me would have said, time to play Mech Infiltrator, but I think actually when you get a 3 cost, I actually prefer selling it for all of the 1 costs that you can buy from the shop. Because it just means you're more likely to find a 2-star, and finding a 2-star is going to help you A, preserve HP, but also potentially win streak if you get the right setup for it. So that's why I made that decision. In terms of itemization, I'm finding some bits and bobs here. I'm not finding anything too crazy. What I'm finding right now is I've got a part of an Infinity Edge, I've got part of a GA, I've got the Needlessly Large Rod as well. Now, all of these items are quite good because you can give them to the units that I have on the field at this current moment in time. So, for instance, I can give Malphite my defensive item. I can give Ziggs my Rod. I'm actually giving Caitlyn my crit item just at the moment because I'm not really sure what I want to do with it. I don't know if I want to commit it to Yasuo or I want to use it for a I don't know if I want to commit it to Yasuo or if I want to use it for a Quicksilver, for instance. Now, I actually give Yasuo the Chain Vest because I'm almost certain that I want to get myself a GA. So it was a risky move to put it on him right now, but I was pretty confident that I'd be able to find a GA at some point. So that's basically the why I did that. I think realistically what I should have done was put it on the Malphite, because Malphite's expendable. I'm definitely getting rid of him. But for some reason I put it. For some reason I was so confident I decided to just throw it on the Yasuo. But yeah, that probably shouldn't have been the case. I probably should have put it on the Malphite. That's a learning point for me in the future. Just because if I don't find the GA, then I've just got a random Chain Vest on my Yasuo, which probably could have gone to my Yi, for instance. So yeah, that was definitely a slight mistake on my part right there. Now, I leveled up because I thought that I could win streak with this start, especially with a 2-star Caitlyn, but unfortunately I just ran into someone who had a stronger composition than me. And I'm actually going to play by the golden rule of essentially sell everything that I don't want to use to get me to 10 gold. So I'm playing by the golden rule of 10 gold by round 2-3. I give up the Rebel bonus and I actually go for the Blade Master bonus. So that Rebel bonus wasn't particularly strong, especially without Ziggs being 2-star. So I instead end up going for this Blade Master bonus, which it's not bad, to be honest with you. It's not super strong, but it's not bad either. Unfortunately, the only BF sword on this carousel gets taken away, so I end up going for the Negatron Cloak. The reason I go for the Negatron Cloak is it's going to get me Quicksilver. Talked about it before. Quicksilver is a good item on Yi. I have the sparring gloves already, so I'm going to go for the Quicksilver just because I know it's a guaranteed core item for one of my important carries. Now, you might have wondered why I didn't pick up Blitzcrank on the previous shop. It's just because I didn't want to ruin that 10 gold at 2-3, and Blitzcrank is someone that I can find later on. Neither is he important to 3-star, so I'm very happy to just leave it at that. In terms of positioning, I want Shen to take the early damage, so I want him to cast his ability quickly. Then I want Yasuo to join the fight immediately afterwards and be the second guy to be focused. I don't want him to be focused first. And you can see here I actually end up winning. So I'm on a bit of a middling streak. We call this middling when you win and lose. So I'm on a win and loss at the same time kind of streak, which is perfectly fine. You know, we're okay with that. I think preserving HP when you're playing a slow roll composition is always really important. That's why it's important to manage your economy at the same time as middling. Because obviously if I was lose streaking, I'd be able to get to 50 gold much quicker. I'd probably be able to get to 50 gold by the Krugs or just after. But obviously I'm not able to do that. So the best way that I can manage that is being very frugal in terms of what I buy from the shops. And also not leveling any more than I have to. So I'm not leveling anymore. I leveled very early on and obviously hit 5 by Krugs, and I'm at 30 gold as well. So I've managed to be frugal with my economy. I've hit 30 gold by the Krug round, and I am level 5 already. So I'm going to be level 5. That means I'm going to preserve a bit of HP. And obviously I've picked up a couple of units that I do want as well. And now I'm going to try and work myself up to 50 gold, and at 50 gold that's when I'm going to begin to slow roll. Now in terms of this tier, I could make a redemption right here, and actually if I was being smart, probably could have made a redemption, but I was actually saving these items just to see what I could combine with them. Like for instance, Yi could have a Warmogs. So I didn't want to make the redemption straight up because it's an item that I don't think takes priority over anything else. Although tier, realistically, only has 2 uses in this composition. You either give it to the Sona or you give it to the Shen. I actually, if by having just an individual tier, I do actually prefer to have that individual tier just on the Sona, just because I think that she's the one that benefits the most from it. She has a very, very, very low amount of mana. She's at 40 mana unit, so I think having Seraphs on her just makes her so strong because she can basically just constantly cast her heal, which is super good. So I'm taking a beating in the mid game right now, but again, like my main priority at this point in time is essentially get to well, you know what it is. It's basically get to level get to 50 gold and start slow rolling for my 3 stars and my 2 stars. You can see I'm just kind of like mulling about with what kind of items that I want to apply where. I've just given the QSS over to Yi because obviously that's important, and I've essentially now got to look for my 2 stars. It's really important that I now find my 2 stars. We are now 50 gold. We are basically going to be rolling for them as much as possible. But luckily, I've inted a couple of rounds, so I get the second choice in the carousel. And actually, what's really good is I'm able to get the Cho'Gath with the BF sword. So I actually played a little bit greedy and skipped the Leona. I went for the Cho'Gath. The reason I went for the Cho'Gath is because he's just 3 gold more to sell. So I can get 3 gold extra and get the BF sword that I wanted. This BF sword will immediately give me GA from my Yasuo, which is a really nice item for him. And now we're starting to pick up units that do actually mean something to this composition. So we're level 5. We've got 2-star Yasuo, we've got 2-star Yi, we've got 2-star Shen, and we found the Blitzcrank, so we have 2 Chrono now as well. So we're actually now, I think actually as a level 5 comp, we are now pretty strong. Like we've got the bits that make us good. The Chrono is there, so our attack speed is going to start to go up. We've got some items that make us strong as well. So we are going to start winning more. And you can see, I go up against this guy, end up winning pretty comfortably. So I'm actually really happy with this mid game now. And this is actually one of the beautiful things about this composition. It can come online really quickly. Like this composition comes online really quickly. So I did end up giving the tier over to my Sona. Again, if I find another tier, that's going to become a Seraphs. Now I could have given a redemption over to my Shen, but I wanted to save that Giant's Belt just in case I want to use it for anything else. Now, unfortunately, Mech Infiltrator did beat me here. I'm not strong enough to beat a Mech Infiltrator at that level, but again, we are looking primarily for our 3 stars, and once we hit our 3 stars, that's when this composition really starts to shine. Obviously, if someone else is contesting, it might be more difficult to get the 3-star Yi, for instance, but the 3-star Yasuo, 2 people should be able to get 2 cost 3 stars. Finding the spatula is actually really annoying. I'll tell you why. I've given Yi the Warmogs. That's why I was talking about saving the talking about saving the giant spell because Warmog's Yi is actually pretty okay. But yeah, I find a spatula, and it's kind of annoying because there isn't really much that I can do with a spatula with this composition. So that's why I'm a little bit stressed, because I want to find a use for this spatula, but there isn't that many uses. The only use that I think that I could really get away with in this composition is using a Dark Star Heart. Now, if I was smart, or I waited long enough, I probably could give that Dark Star Heart to Yi or Yasuo. But in this particular case, I just didn't find the items quick enough, and I wanted to stack them with items that I knew were pretty good on them. So I haven't got optimal items for my Yi and Yasuo, but it's pretty important that when you're at 59 HP and you're still level 5, you take every advantage and you don't be greedy. I basically, by not being greedy, I'm playing for top 4 essentially. You could be greedy and try and go for the perfect items to try and get yourself to like top 1. But for me, I really felt like I didn't want to be greedy. Now, I rolled down pretty extensively here because I found a couple of threads of Sonas, and I found a few Shens as well. Now, I wouldn't prioritize going for Shens. He costs a lot of money for someone that isn't as important to 3-star. But I felt comfortable on the amount of HP that I had that I could probably make a go of it. But if I were you, I would not prioritize Shen. Sona, Yi, and Yasuo should be your absolute priorities for 3 stars. But I get a bit greedy with my itemization. Now, I get really lucky here. No one takes the Infinity Edge on the A-Sol, which is just absolutely insane. I now get a free Infinity Edge for my Yasuo, which I probably wouldn't have got otherwise. And I get to sell an Aurelion Soul for 5 gold, which is also insane. So yeah, I'm very happy with this particular carousel. I guess the bottom 2 just weren't looking for an Infinity Edge. And now my Yasuo is basically fully stacked, which is just awesome. So yeah, I find the 3-star Sona, which is great. That's kind of what I wanted. I found another 2-star Shen, and I just roll down to 20. I'm level 6 as well, so now I've got the Sona. Now I've got the Karma, and that's going to start to buff my Yi a little bit. But yeah, we're almost at some really big 3-star upgrades right now. We're looking for a Yi, so we've got 2 more Yis to get, and I think we've got like 1 or 2 more Yasuos to get. And with the 3-star Sona, the healing's actually really strong. So yeah, we need 2 more Yasuos, 2 more Yis, and we also just need 3 more Shens. So we're actually pretty close to finding the units that we need. And you can see, because I'm so close to a couple of the really important units, I end up just rolling down. There's a Shen in this shop as well, so if I win, I will buy that Shen. And then we just need 1 more Yasuo. Now, after the Yasuo, I actually don't need to roll for the Shen, because the Shen is not so important. I will take him when I get him. But we are in a super strong spot now. We just need 1 more item for our Master Yi. So now we're in the neutral round. We're just going to save. Again, I think we don't need to roll for the Yasuo, by the way. We can just kind of let it happen naturally. But obviously, the lower that I go in HP, the more likely I'm going to have to be to roll for it. But level 6 is where this comp is actually pretty strong, and we're just happy to kind of take it as it is. So right here, I could have gone for the Dark Star Heart on Yi. That would have been the sensible option. I don't know why. Do you know what? I don't actually know why I didn't go for the Dark Star Heart on Yi. I actually just randomly ended up putting up a needlessly large roll on him because I thought that would benefit his healing and his auto attack damage more. But realistically, I think the Dark Star Heart Yi was probably the play. Really, just because it's quite easy to add another Dark Star when you go to level 7, for instance, and level 7 isn't too hard to get. So I should have really gone for the Dark Star Heart Yi. I think the thought process that I had was that maybe I'm not going to level 7, but I'm obviously going to level 7 with the setup that I've got now. So I really should have just gone Dark Star Heart. I could have gone. Thing is, I was unsure whether Demolitionist affected his basic attacks, so I could have gone Demolitionist, for instance, but I wasn't sure if it affected his basic attacks, and I thought it'd be inting a bit if I just put a Demolitionist charge on Yi, and then his basic attacks didn't actually end up stunning anyone. So that's why I was a little bit afraid of putting the Demolitionist charge on Yi. Definitely should have gone for Dark Star. The Dark Star would have been absolutely pog, because I could have gone to level 7 and added a random Mordekaiser, for instance. And that would have allowed me to just have a really strong build. I also didn't know whether Jeweled Gauntlet affected his basic attacks, so I didn't put it on him either. But I was being a little bit anxious about the demolition, the use of Spatula here, or the use of Jeweled Gauntlets. There were probably some decisions that were made around that could have helped me out. And if anyone in the comments wants to tell me whether Demolitionist Charge does affect Master Yi's basic attacks, then that would have been helpful. But I still think Dark Star Heart would have been just the best choice for the Yi in this scenario. So I actually went for the Zephyr here because I think the Zephyr was the best item available to me. Now, I actually, being Shen, being 3-star, I wanted to give him some defenses, and I thought, oh, well, Zephyr gives you some pretty solid defenses. And also, I'm most concerned about using this on the mech. So that's basically why I did it. I was like, oh, I can use this on the mech, so I'll put it on Shen. I just basically wanted Shen, who was so close to 3-star, to have some defenses. And yeah, here we go. I put Darkstar Heart on Shen. Now, this would have been much better on Yi, and really, please don't flame me, guys. I was just having a bit of a moment. But we do find the 3-star Shen eventually, which is nice. So this comp here is the one that I'm going to struggle the most against. He's got a lot of 3-stars. He's got a very, very strong setup, and I don't really have the Mystics. Neither do I have the gold to go to level 8 and add the Mystics. So that's the composition that I'm really going to have to struggle with against the most. He's also now got a 3-star Syndra. At this point in time, we're basically just playing for, I guess, top 2, top 3, depending on who we play up against. But we are really strong. Like, we are genuinely very, very strong at this point in time. The other change that I can make in this composition is adding a Jhin instead of the Mordekaiser. So Jhin by himself, even without items, can do a decent amount of damage. So I think just adding in a Jhin as a Darkstar variant is probably just a better decision, and that's what I've done here. I've just thought, well, Jin's actually pretty strong, so let's just add Jhin. Now look at this, we actually get a Rebel Medal from the Kayn, which is actually pretty insane because that can go directly onto my Shen. Well, not only will it make him slightly tankier, but also it will just buff the amount of shielding and damage bonus that my Yasuo and Yi are going to get, because I'm just going to throw that on the Shen, and then now they're suddenly getting benefits from Rebels from both top and bot. So this is actually a pretty good change, or a pretty good addition to this comp, I think, just having that Rebel Medal bonus on the Shen. And I think now that my Yasuo and Yi are like super strong. So I think we could beat pretty much everybody except for the Star Guardian Sorcerer composition. There isn't really much to say about this because positioning versus most comps remains the same. Like you obviously are trying to benefit mostly from the Rebel positioning. You want your Shen to take the damage at the start. The Blitzcrank positioning could change. You could obviously make him pull a particularly saucy target. We find the 3-star Blitzcrank, by the way, as well. And the 2-star Jhin. So we've got a super strong core of our comp. The only problem is that we really just don't beat the Star Guardian composition. Like we just can't get through the Nico. He's also got like 3-stars coming out of everywhere. So like we just can't beat the Nico quick enough. And you can see it's like nigh on impossible for us to beat this particular player. I don't know how I position to beat this guy. I don't think Blitzcrank's going to pull anyone relevant when I'm putting him there. Obviously, the ideal pull for me would be Syndra. Now, the way I think I could have done this was maybe position my Zephyr to catch the Syndra. The problem is that the Zephyr was not working on the Nico. So the Zephyr just wasn't working on the Nico because like she had QSS. I think that the way I should have positioned this was playing Zephyr on my Zephyr for the Syndra, but that would have been difficult to do, and also might have ended up losing some of the Rebel bonus. So that was just a poor endgame that I didn't really think I had a good chance versus, because I didn't go to level 8 for the Mystics. But yeah, that was it. That was the bangbros comp. Still some mistakes made, but I think it's a learning process. Me actually doing this helps me learn from my own games, which is important. I'll see you soon.